The groom loved his fiancée. You could see it in the way he looked at her, touched her, talked about their future together. Except he didn't love her, he was planning to kill her. 3 weeks before their wedding, I discovered that Derek Matthews had taken out $3.5 million in life insurance policies on his bride-to-be. And I found internet search history on his laptop showing he'd been researching undetectable poisons and accidental death insurance clauses. This is the story of how I stopped a wedding 4 days before the ceremony, not because of cold feet or family drama, but because the groom was literally planning to murder his bride on their honeymoon and collect millions in insurance money.
Before we begin today's story, I'd love to know something about you. Tell me, from which city are you watching? Leave your answer in the comments below. Now, take a deep breath, sit back, and let's begin this journey together.
The initial consultation request came through in mid-July, and everything about it seemed normal. Perfect, even. Subject: November wedding, full planning services. Dear Maya, my fiancée Jessica and I are getting married November 15th and would love your help planning our celebration. We're both successful professionals who want an elegant but not ostentatious wedding for about 120 guests. Jessica has excellent taste, but is too busy with work to manage all the details herself. Budget is flexible. We want quality but not excess. Can we schedule a consultation? Best, Derek Matthews. Professional, thoughtful, nothing suspicious. I replied immediately and we scheduled a consultation for the following Friday at my office. They arrived exactly on time, Derek and Jessica, holding hands, looking like they'd stepped out of a romance novel. Jessica was stunning in an effortless way, blonde, athletic, warm smile, the kind of person who lights up a room. She wore business casual, she'd come from work, and had an easy confidence that suggested someone comfortable in her own skin. Derek was conventionally handsome, tall, well-dressed, polished, the kind of man who knew how to present himself. Charming smile, firm handshake, good eye contact, and they looked perfect together, completely, obviously in love, which is what made what I eventually discovered so horrifying. Tell me about your relationship, I said, starting with my standard opening question. How did you meet? Jessica's face lit up. Dating app, actually, 2 years ago. I almost didn't swipe right because his profile seemed too good to be true. Successful real estate developer, loves hiking and travel, looking for serious relationship. It seemed like he was probably catfishing. Derek laughed, and I almost didn't message her because her profile made her seem out of my league. Marketing director, runs marathons, volunteers with literacy nonprofits. I thought, she's probably getting hundreds of messages. But we matched, Jessica continued, squeezing his hand. And our first date was 5 hours long. We closed down the restaurant. I knew that night I was going to marry him. It was sweet, genuine seeming, the kind of love story that makes wedding planners happy to do their jobs. When did you get engaged? 3 months ago, Derek said. I proposed during a weekend trip to Napa. Nothing elaborate, just us, a vineyard at sunset, and the ring I'd been carrying around for weeks waiting for the perfect moment. It was perfect, Jessica said, looking at her engagement ring, a modest but elegant solitaire diamond. Derek knows I don't need anything flashy, just something meaningful. Red flag number 1. Though I didn't recognize it yet, Derek had proposed after less than 2 years of dating, which isn't inherently suspicious, but is relatively fast for people in their late 20s, early 30s. Tell me about your vision for the wedding. Jessica spoke mostly. She wanted elegance without ostentation. A beautiful venue, excellent food, live music, meaningful ceremony. Nothing trendy or over the top. I want our wedding to feel timeless. Like we could look back in 30 years and it wouldn't seem dated. What's your budget? Derek answered. We're thinking $150,000 total. That should be comfortable for 120 guests with the quality we're looking for, right? Absolutely. That's a generous budget for that guest count. How are you splitting costs, family contributions, personal savings? All us, Derek said. Jessica and I are both financially independent. Her parents offered to contribute, but we declined. This is our wedding. We want to pay for it ourselves. I insisted, Jessica added. My family has money, but I don't want to start our marriage with my parents thinking they get input because they paid. This is about Derek and me. Red flag number 2. Jessica came from family money. She was financially comfortable. That fact would become significant later. We spent 2 hours discussing details. Jessica knew exactly what she wanted. She'd clearly been planning her dream wedding mentally for years. Derek was attentive, supportive, deferring to her preferences, but asking thoughtful questions. "I just want Jessica to have the wedding she deserves," Derek said at one point, looking at her with what appeared to be genuine love. "Whatever makes her happy." They were, by all appearances, a perfect couple, planning a perfect wedding. I should have known better. After 6 previous cases where perfect turned out to be performance, I should have been more skeptical. But they were convincing, so convincing. Over the next 2 months, I met with Jessica and Derek regularly for planning sessions. The pattern was consistent. Jessica was excited and involved. Derek was supportive and attentive. They never fought. They agreed on everything. They seemed genuinely happy. But small things started bothering me. Nothing I could articulate clearly. Just feelings. Observation 1. Derek was always noting details about Jessica's schedule and habits. During our second meeting in August, Jessica mentioned she goes running every morning at 6 a.m. Derek immediately said, 6:15 actually, right, babe? You're very particular about your routine. Right, 6:15, Jessica confirmed. How do you remember that? I pay attention to you, Derek said with a smile. It seemed sweet, attentive boyfriend remembering girlfriend's routines. But something about the way he'd corrected her, the precision, the note-taking quality felt off. Observation 2. Derek asked unusually specific questions about the honeymoon. They were planning a 2-week honeymoon in Thailand, beaches, hiking, remote locations. During a September planning session, Derek asked me, "Do you know if the resort we're staying at has good medical facilities nearby? Jessica's pretty adventurous, and I worry about her doing something risky and getting hurt." That's thoughtful, I said. Most resorts have medical staff on site and relationships with nearby hospitals. What about for serious injuries? Like, would they medevac to Bangkok? For life-threatening emergencies, yes. Are you worried about something specific? Just Jessica's tendency to push herself too hard. She runs until she injures herself, hikes dangerous trails, doesn't know her limits. I want to make sure if something happens, we're not hours from help. Jessica laughed. I'm not that reckless. Derek worries too much. But Derek's expression wasn't worried. It was calculating, assessing. I dismissed the feeling. He was just an anxious partner. Lots of grooms worry about honeymoon safety. Observation 3. Derek was oddly interested in Jessica's life insurance. During a discussion about vendors and insurance requirements, Derek casually mentioned, "Jessica, did your work's life insurance policy kick in yet? The one you mentioned?" "Oh yeah," Jessica said. "The executive level coverage. $2 million if I die, reduced amount for disability. It's a new benefit for directors. Pretty generous." "That's great, babe. You deserve good benefits." Why was he tracking her insurance coverage? Why did he know the exact payout amount? Maybe he was just financially aware. Maybe he'd helped her review the benefits package. Or maybe he was inventorying assets that would pay out if she died. Observation 4. Derek seemed impatient about the wedding timeline. Most grooms are either stressed about wedding planning or checked out. Derek was neither. He was eager to move things forward. "Can we move the date up?" he asked in late September. "Maybe to late October instead of mid-November." "Why the rush?" I asked. "No rush, just why wait? We know we want to get married. An extra month won't change anything." "It might affect vendor availability," I pointed out. "Most of our vendors are booked under November 15th contracts. Moving up would mean renegotiating, possibly finding replacements." "Right, of course, never mind. November 15th is perfect." But he'd looked frustrated, like he had a timeline he was trying to meet. Red flag number 3. Groom eager to accelerate wedding timeline without clear reason. Still, none of it added up to anything actionable, just vague discomfort, intuition without evidence. That changed in early October, 3 weeks before the wedding, when I accidentally discovered what Derek was really planning. I had a meeting scheduled with Derek and Jessica at their apartment on October 22nd, 3.5 weeks before the wedding. We were finalizing seating charts and reviewing vendor timelines. I arrived at 6 p.m. as scheduled. Jessica answered the door, hair wet from the shower, looking apologetic. Maya, I'm so sorry. I'm running late. Work crisis kept me late, and I just got home 20 minutes ago. Derek's in the study working. Can you wait in the living room? I'll be ready in 10 minutes. Of course, take your time. She disappeared into the bedroom. I sat in the living room, pulling out my tablet to review the seating chart while I waited. 5 minutes later, I heard Derek's voice from the study. The door was slightly ajar, and he was on a phone call. I wasn't intentionally eavesdropping, but his tone, cold, annoyed, completely different from his usual charming presentation, caught my attention. Told you 3 more weeks. Yes, after the wedding. I'm not moving up the timeline, Marcus. We've been through this. No, the insurance policies don't pay out unless she's been my wife for at least 30 days. If she dies before the wedding or immediately after, it looks suspicious. 30 days minimum. I'm thinking 6 weeks, actually. Give it enough time that no one connects the wedding to the death. I froze. Every instinct screamed that I was hearing something terrible. Derek continued, a voice low and businesslike. The Thailand honeymoon is perfect. Remote location, lots of opportunities for accidents. Hiking accident, drowning, even food poisoning could work if we're careful. Yes, I've been researching. Look, I know it's risky, but I'm $450,000 in debt. The loan sharks are threatening to break my legs. I need that insurance money. Total is $3.5 million across all the policies. After I pay off the debts and cut you in, I'm still walking away with over $2 million. My hands were shaking. I couldn't breathe. Derek was planning to murder Jessica on their honeymoon for insurance money. I sat frozen, not knowing what to do. If I made noise, Derek would know I'd overheard. If I stayed silent, I was witnessing conspiracy to commit murder and doing nothing. Jessica emerged from the bedroom, now dressed and ready. Okay, I'm set. Let's do this seating chart. Her voice, bright, happy, completely unaware that her fiancé was in the next room discussing her murder, broke my paralysis. I needed to act, but carefully. If Derek knew I'd overheard, he might accelerate his plan, or worse, come after me. Actually, Jessica, I'm so sorry. I just got an emergency text from another client. Vendor crisis. I need to reschedule. Can we meet tomorrow instead? Oh no, is everything okay? It will be. Just need to put out a fire. I'll text you tomorrow to set up a new time. I left before Derek could emerge from the study, before he could see my face and know that I had heard everything. I got to my car, hands shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. Derek Matthews was planning to murder Jessica Chen for $3.5 million in life insurance money, and the wedding was in 3.5 weeks. I drove straight to the police station, asked for Detective Sarah Chen, who I'd worked with on previous cases. We had a relationship built on mutual respect after the bigamist case. She was just ending her shift, but when she saw my face, she brought me to an interview room immediately. Maya, what happened? You look terrified. I overheard my client, the groom, discussing plans to murder his bride on the phone with someone named Marcus for life insurance money. The wedding is in 3 weeks. Sarah pulled out a notepad. Tell me everything, exact words if you can remember them. I repeated Derek's phone conversation as accurately as I could. The $450,000 debt, the $3.5 million in insurance policies, the plan to wait 30 days after marriage, the Thailand honeymoon location, the mention of accidents. Who are the couple? Derek Matthews, 35, commercial real estate. Jessica Chen, 29, marketing director. They've been together 2 years, engaged for 3 months. Sarah was already typing on her computer. Jessica Chen, is she wealthy? Family money plus good salary. She mentioned $200K salary and implied family trust fund. I don't know exact numbers. And Derek's financial situation? He presents as successful, but apparently has $450,000 in gambling debts to loan sharks, which I didn't know until the phone call. Sarah's expression was grim. This is bad, very bad. But here's the problem. What you overheard isn't admissible. You were not lawfully in a position to hear a private phone call, and even if it were admissible, it's not enough for an arrest. He hasn't actually done anything illegal yet, just discussed it. So we do nothing? We let him marry her and wait for him to kill her? No, we investigate quietly. We verify the insurance policies exist. We look into Derek's debts. We find out who Marcus is. We gather evidence that would support charges of conspiracy to commit murder, and most importantly, we warn Jessica. Will she believe it? Would you believe it if someone told you the person you love was planning to kill you? No. Exactly. But we have to try. And Maya, you need to be very careful. If Derek suspects you might become a target too. That thought hadn't occurred to me, but Sarah was right. If Derek was willing to murder his fiancée for money, he'd certainly silence a wedding planner who'd discovered his plan. 72 hours until I confront Jessica. 48 hours until Derek realizes I know. 24 hours until the plan unravels. Detective Chen moved fast. By the morning of October 23rd, one day after I overheard Derek's phone call, she'd already started pulling together a case. She called me at 9 a.m. I need to meet with you. Bring everything you have on Derek Matthews and Jessica Chen. Client files, contracts, correspondence, everything. We met at a coffee shop away from the police station. Sarah wanted to keep the investigation quiet. Here's what I've confirmed so far, Sarah said, pulling out a folder. Jessica Chen, 29, marketing director at a major firm, salary $215,000. Family trust fund worth approximately $1.8 million, which she'll fully inherit at age 35. Parents are wealthy, only child. She's worth a lot of money, and she'll be worth more. And Derek Matthews, 35, claims to be a successful commercial real estate developer. Reality is more complicated. He does work in real estate, but his projects keep failing. He's lost money on 3 major deals in the past 2 years. And you were right about gambling debts. He owes $450,000 to some very dangerous people. Loan sharks connected to organized crime. They've been threatening him. He's desperate. How desperate? Desperate enough to marry someone for their insurance money and plan their murder. Maya, I pulled the life insurance policies. There are 5 separate policies on Jessica Chen, all taken out in the past 6 months. She showed me a list. Policy 1, $2,000. Jessica's work executive benefit, she mentioned this one. Policy 2, $1,000. Private policy Derek convinced Jessica to buy for protection. Policy 3, $500,000. Policy Derek took out on Jessica claiming spousal coverage. Policy 4, $750,000. Another private policy with small print. Policy 5, $250,000. Travel insurance with accidental death rider. Total, $4.5 million. Jesus, I whispered. I thought he said $3.5 million on the phone. He probably doesn't know about all of them himself. Some of these he convinced Jessica to sign without her fully understanding what they were. One was hidden in estate planning documents. Jessica has no idea how much insurance exists on her life. This is premeditated murder for hire. Worse, this is murder for profit after elaborate financial preparation. He's been setting this up for months, maybe longer. Sarah pulled out more documents. I also identified Marcus Kelly, Derek's cousin, former paramedic, lost his license for stealing drugs, also has significant debts. Derek's paying him to help with the murder. I don't know exact role yet, but he's involved. What's the plan? How do we stop this? We need more evidence. I need recorded conversations. I need proof of conspiracy. Right now, all I have is suspicious circumstances, the debt, the policies, your testimony about overhearing one phone call. That's not enough for charges. Derek can claim the insurance is normal spousal protection, that you misheard his conversation, that he was talking about a TV show or hypothetical scenario. So what do I do? Keep planning the wedding, act normal, and gather evidence. If Derek discusses the plan in your presence again, record it. If you see documents, photograph them. If he mentions anything suspicious, document it. You're our inside access. That makes me feel like bait. You're not bait. You're an investigator. But Maya, you need to be smart. Derek is dangerous. If he realizes you know, he might accelerate his plan or change targets. Meaning me. Meaning you, so be careful. Vary your routes. Don't meet Derek alone. Tell someone where you are at all times. And if anything feels wrong, call 911 immediately. Continuing to plan Derek and Jessica's wedding while knowing Derek intended to murder Jessica was surreal and horrifying. I had a venue walkthrough scheduled with them on October 24th. I almost canceled. How could I look Derek in the eye knowing what he was planning? But Sarah was insistent. Act normal, gather evidence, don't let him know you suspect anything. So I went to the venue, walked through. Jessica was radiant, excited about finalizing table arrangements and lighting. She showed me photos she'd taken of centerpieces she liked and talked about the first dance song they'd chosen. Derek was his usual charming self, attentive to Jessica, thoughtful about details, playing the role of devoted fiancé perfectly. But now that I knew what he was really planning, I could see the performance. The way he touched Jessica had a possessive quality, like touching an asset he owned. The way he looked at her was assessing, not loving, calculating her worth versus the risk. I can't wait for the honeymoon, Jessica said at one point, showing me photos of the Thai resort. 2 weeks of beaches and hiking and just disconnecting from everything. It looks beautiful, I said, my stomach turning. That honeymoon was where Derek planned to kill her. Derek picked the location, Jessica continued. He found this amazing remote resort, no crowds, really private. He knows I hate tourist traps. Privacy's important, Derek said smoothly. I want our honeymoon to be just us, no distractions. No witnesses, I thought. That's what he actually means. Remote location where Jessica's accidental death won't be immediately discovered or investigated. At one point during the walkthrough, Jessica went to the bathroom. I was alone with Derek for the first time since overhearing his phone call. My hands were shaking. I pretended to review my tablet. Derek stood next to me looking at the room. This is going to be perfect. Jessica deserves the perfect wedding. She does, I managed. You've been great to work with, Maya. Very professional. Very discreet. The way he said discreet made my blood run cold. Did he suspect I'd overheard? Was this a warning? I tried to be, I said carefully. I appreciate that. Some wedding planners are gossips. They overhear things and spread rumors, ruin relationships. I appreciate that you're not like that. Client confidentiality is important to me. Good, because sometimes people overhear things out of context and jump to conclusions. It would be unfortunate if that happened. It was absolutely a warning. Derek suspected something. Jessica returned before I had to respond, but I left the venue walk-through shaking. I called Sarah immediately. He knows I overheard something. He basically threatened me. Did he explicitly threaten you? Not explicitly, but the message was clear. Stay quiet or else. Okay, we need to move faster. I'm going to approach Jessica today. She needs to know. Will she believe you? I don't know, but we're running out of time. The wedding is in 3 weeks. If he's planning to kill her 45 days after the wedding, we have less than 2 months to stop this. Detective Chen arranged to meet Jessica at her office on October 25th under the pretense of routine questions about wedding vendor permits. She asked me to be there. Jessica trusts you, Sarah explained. If this comes from you, someone she knows, she might believe it more than if it's just a random detective making crazy accusations. So I went. We met Jessica in a conference room at her workplace. Neutral territory, where Derek wouldn't be present. Jessica arrived looking curious but not concerned. Maya, what's this about? Do we have a permit problem with the venue? Jessica, sit down. This isn't about permits. This is more serious. Her expression shifted to worry. What's wrong? Did something happen to Derek? Sarah introduced herself. Miss Chen. I'm Detective Sarah Chen with CPD. I need to tell you something that's going to be very difficult to hear, but I need you to listen to everything before you react. You're scaring me. I know, I'm sorry, but this is important. Jessica, we have reason to believe your fiancé Derek Matthews is planning to harm you. Jessica blinked, processed, then laughed, an uncomfortable, disbelieving laugh. What? That's insane. Derek would never hurt me. He loves me. Jessica, Derek is $450,000 in debt to dangerous people, Sarah said gently. And he's taken out $4.5 million in life insurance policy on you. Maya overheard him discussing plans to kill you on your honeymoon and collect the insurance money. Jessica looked at me, betrayal in her eyes. Maya, is this some kind of joke? A really terrible prank? I wish it were, I said. 3 days ago, I was at your apartment for our meeting. You were in the bedroom getting ready. Derek was in the study on a phone call. I overheard him discussing your murder with someone named Marcus. He mentioned the insurance policies, the Thailand honeymoon. waiting 30 days after the wedding so it wouldn't look suspicious. You're lying. Jessica stood up. I don't know why, but you're lying. Derek loves me. We're getting married in 3 weeks. This is crazy. Jessica, I verified the insurance policies, Sarah said, sliding documents across the table. Look, I filmed 5 separate policies totaling $4.5 million with Derek as beneficiary. Some of these you signed without realizing what they were. Jessica looked at the documents. Her hands were shaking. I remember signing estate planning documents, she said slowly. Derek said we needed them for marriage, but I didn't read them all carefully because I trusted him. That's what he was counting on, Sarah said. Jessica, Derek has massive gambling debts to loan sharks. He needs money desperately. You're worth a lot of money alive, but you're worth more to him dead. No. Tears were streaming down Jessica's face now. No, this isn't real. Derek wouldn't. He couldn't. I know this is devastating, I said, but Jessica, I heard him. Clear as day. He was discussing your murder like a business. Transaction. How long to wait after the wedding. Where it should happen. How to make it look accidental. He's planning to kill you. Jessica was sobbing. We've been together 2 years. He proposed. We're planning a life. How could all of that be fake? It's possible he cared about you initially, Sarah said, but at some point the debts became overwhelming and he saw you as a solution, a way to pay off the loan sharks and have money left over. Jessica, the man you love exists, but Derek Matthews is not that man. Derek Matthews is a con artist who's been setting you up to die. Jessica put her head in her hands. Her whole body was shaking. What do I do? She finally asked. First, don't go home, Sarah said. Don't see Derek. Don't tell him we've talked. Go stay with family or friends somewhere Derek doesn't know about. He knows all my friends, all my family. Then we'll arrange a safe house. But Jessica, you cannot see Derek. If he suspects you know, he might accelerate his plan. He might try to kill you before the wedding. Cancel the wedding, I added. Tell vendors there's been a postponement due to family emergency or work crisis. Don't mention the real reason. And then what? Derek just gets away with this? Walks away and finds another woman to murder? No, Sarah said firmly. Then we investigate. We build a case. We gather enough evidence to charge him with conspiracy to commit murder. We get him on wire fraud for the insurance policies. We make sure he goes to prison for a very long time. But Jessica, I need your help. We need you to cooperate with the investigation. And most importantly, we need you to stay alive. Jessica wiped her eyes. What do you need me to do? Right now, disappear. Go somewhere Derek can't find you. We'll tell him you had a family emergency out of state. Let him think you're still planning to marry him. Give us time to build the case. And if he figures it out, then we arrest him immediately on whatever charges we have, even if they're not as strong as we'd like. But Jessica, the best way to stop him is to let him think the plan is still working while we gather evidence. Can you do that? Jessica looked at me. Is this real? Am I really in danger? Yes, I said. I heard him, Jessica. He was discussing your murder. This is real. She nodded slowly. Okay, tell me what to do. Detective Chen moved quickly. Within hours of our meeting with Jessica, she had secured Jessica in a safe location, a hotel under a false name where Derek couldn't find her, placed a surveillance team on Derek, monitoring his movements and communications, obtained a warrant to track Derek's phone and internet activity based on probable cause identified Marcus Kelly's location, Derek's cousin who was helping plan the murder briefed the district attorney, who agreed to prosecute if they could get sufficient evidence. This is now an active investigation into conspiracy to commit murder, Sarah told me. Derek has no idea we're watching him. Jessica's disappearance is explained as a work emergency in another state. As far as Derek knows, the wedding is still on. How long can we maintain that fiction? Not long. Derek's already texting Jessica asking when she'll be back. She's responding minimally, saying she's dealing with a crisis, but he's getting suspicious. Over the next 72 hours, the surveillance team documented Derek's activities. October 26th. Derek met with Marcus Kelly at a bar. Surveillance captured partial audio of them discussing the Thailand plan and making it look like a drowning. Marcus expressed nervousness about the timeline. Derek told him 3 more weeks and we're rich. October 27th. Derek visited a pharmacy and purchased over-the-counter sleep aids. Then he went to a library and used public computers to search sedatives that don't show up in autopsy. And how long does drowning take? He was building a murder manual. October 28th. Derek called Jessica repeatedly, becoming increasingly agitated when she didn't answer. He left a voicemail. "Babe, I'm worried about you. This work thing shouldn't take this long. I need you to come home. We have wedding stuff to finalize. Call me back." The voicemail sounded concerned, loving even. But Sarah and I could hear the edge of control underneath. "He's starting to panic," Sarah said. "He needs Jessica back to execute his plan. If she stays away too long, he'll either get suspicious or desperate. Both are dangerous." "So what's the next move?" "We have enough for conspiracy charges, the surveillance audio, the internet searches, the insurance policies, your testimony. The DA says we can arrest him now if we want to." But if we arrest him now, we don't get Marcus Kelly, and we don't know if there are other people involved. I want to let this play out a little longer. Let Derek think he's still in control. See if he reveals more of the plan. That's risky. What if he decides to go after Jessica despite her being out of town? What if he realizes she's not coming back and runs? We're monitoring him 24/7. If he tries to leave town or makes any move toward violence, we'll arrest immediately. But Maya, the more evidence we have, the longer he stays in prison. Right now, we have conspiracy. If we can catch him actually attempting the murder or attempting to harm Jessica, we have attempted murder. Much longer sentence? You're using Jessica as bait. Jessica volunteered. She wants to help catch him. She wants him locked up for as long as possible so he can't do this to anyone else. By October 29th, 2.5 weeks before the wedding, Derek was falling apart. Jessica had been out of town for 5 days. She was responding to his texts minimally, claiming work crisis, promising to return soon. But Derek knew something was wrong. The surveillance team reported increasingly erratic behavior, visiting Jessica's office and asking colleagues where she was. Her boss, who'd been briefed by police, told Derek that Jessica was handling a client emergency in California and would be back when she was back. Calling Jessica's family, her parents, also briefed, said they hadn't heard from her but assumed she was busy with work. They played it casual. Derek asked if Jessica had seemed upset about the wedding. They said no, meeting with Marcus again. Surveillance captured Derek telling Marcus, "Something's wrong, and I think she knows." Marcus panicked, suggested calling off the plan. Derek refused. "I'm in too deep. The loan sharks will kill me if I don't pay. I need that insurance money. We're doing this with or without Jessica's cooperation." That last statement was chilling. Derek was willing to murder Jessica, even if it meant tracking her down and forcing the issue. Sarah made the decision to accelerate. "We're bringing Derek in tomorrow morning, October 30th. The surveillance has given us enough. We have conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, insurance fraud. We'll arrest him and Marcus simultaneously before either of them does something desperate." "What about Jessica?" "She stays in protective custody until we're sure there aren't other accomplices. Derek might have told loan sharks about his plan. We need to make sure Jessica's safe from any revenge attempts." On October 30th at 6 a.m., police arrested Derek Matthews at his apartment and Marcus Kelly at his home across town. Both were charged with conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, and insurance fraud. Sarah invited me to watch Derek's interrogation through the one-way glass. I shouldn't have been there. Civilians don't usually observe interrogations, but Sarah bent the rules. "You saved Jessica's life," Sarah said. "You deserve to see the man who tried to kill her face justice." Derek was brought into the interrogation room in handcuffs. He looked furious. "This is a mistake," he said immediately. "I don't know what you think I did, but you're wrong." "Derek Matthews, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, and insurance fraud," Sarah said, reading him his rights. "Conspiracy to murder who?" "This is insane. Jessica Chen, your fiancée, the woman you plan to kill on your honeymoon for $4.5 million insurance money." Derek's face went carefully blank. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Really? Because we have surveillance footage of you meeting with your cousin Marcus discussing the Thailand plan and making it look like a drowning. We have your internet search history showing queries about undetectable poisons and sedatives. We have phone records showing conversations with Marcus about insurance policies and timelines. And we have a witness who overheard you discussing Jessica's murder in detail. Who? Your wedding planner, Maya Sinclair. She heard you on the phone with Marcus on October 22nd discussing exactly how and when you planned to kill Jessica. Derek's eyes went cold. She misunderstood. I was discussing a TV show, a true crime podcast. She's misinterpreting. Then explain the $4.5 million in life insurance policies you took out on Jessica. Explain your $450,000 in gambling debts to loan sharks. Explain why you've been researching drowning deaths and sedatives. I'm not saying anything else without a lawyer. Smart choice, because Derek, we have you, multiple witnesses, surveillance footage, financial records. You plan to marry Jessica Chen, take her to a remote location in Thailand, murder her, and collect millions. That's premeditated murder for financial gain. In Illinois, that's life in prison without parole. Derek stared at the table. No emotion, no remorse, just cold calculation. Finally, he said, I want to make a deal. What kind of deal? I'll testify against Marcus, tell you everything about the plan, in exchange for a reduced sentence. You were the mastermind. Marcus was just helping you. Why would we give you a deal? Because Marcus has killed before. 2 years ago, when he was still a paramedic. Patient overdose that was ruled accidental but wasn't. Marcus knows how to kill people and make it look natural. He's dangerous. I can give you that case if you reduce my charges. Sarah looked at Derek with disgust. You're willing to give up your cousin, the person helping you to save yourself? I'm a businessman. I make deals. That's what I'm good at. You're a sociopath, Sarah said flatly. You planned to murder a woman who loved you for money, and now you're trying to trade your cousin for a lighter sentence. No deal, Derek. You're going to prison for the rest of your life. Derek's facade finally cracked. She was supposed to be easy money. $4.5 million. I could have paid off the debts, started over, had a good life. But she had to go and get suspicious. She didn't get suspicious. Your wedding planner noticed you were a monster and saved her life. Derek looked at the one-way glass, directly at where I was standing, though he couldn't see me. I should have killed the wedding planner when I had the chance, he said. That confession, threat against me, admission that he'd considered murdering me too, sealed it. Derek Matthews wasn't just planning to kill Jessica. He was willing to kill anyone who got in his way. Derek Matthews and Marcus Kelly were both denied bail, deemed flight risks and dangers to the community. The trial was scheduled for January, 3 months away. In part 3, I'll tell you about Marcus Kelly's confession and what he revealed about Derek's plan in detail, the life insurance company's investigation, and how they'd been defrauded Jessica's recovery process, and her testimony about how Derek manipulated Derek's trial strategy. He tried to claim it was all Marcus's idea. The verdict and sentencing. In part 4, I'll tell you where everyone is now, Derek, Marcus, Jessica, me. Jessica's journey to healing and whether she ever trusted anyone again. The changes I made to my screening process after nearly being killed, what I learned about financial abuse and murder for profit schemes. Why this case was different from all my others, because I almost became a victim too. Because Derek Matthews didn't just plan to murder his bride. He was willing to murder anyone who discovered his plan. And I was next on that list.
Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our upcoming tales. And while you're at it, drop a like and let us know what you think in the comments below. Now, let's get back to it.
30 days until trial. 20 days until I learn how close I came to being murdered. 10 days until Derek's full plan is revealed. 2 days after Derek's arrest, Marcus Kelly broke. Unlike Derek, who remained cold and calculating, refusing to speak without his attorney, showing zero remorse, Marcus was terrified. He was facing life in prison for conspiracy to commit murder, and he wasn't nearly as psychopathic as his cousin. Detective Chen called me on November 1st. Marcus is cooperating. He's giving us everything. And Maya, you need to hear this, because it's worse than we thought. We met at the police station. Sarah had a recording of Marcus's confession ready to play. Warning, she said before pressing play. This is graphic. Marcus describes the murder plan in detail. It's disturbing. I nodded. I need to hear it. She pressed play. Derek first approached me about this in April, 6 months before the wedding. He said he'd found the perfect mark, a rich girl who was in love with him. He'd been dating her for over a year, gaining her trust. He said she had family money, a high salary, and he could convince her to sign life insurance policies without realizing what she was doing. 6 months of planning. Derek had been preparing Jessica's murder since April, 3 months before he even proposed. Derek's plan was methodical. First, he proposed to lock her in emotionally. Then he started working on the insurance. He'd help her with estate planning and financial protection, and she'd sign documents without reading them carefully because she trusted him. He took out 5 policies totaling $4.5 million, some Jessica knew about, some she signed without understanding. One he took out himself, listing her as the insured. The murder was supposed to happen on the honeymoon in Thailand. Derek picked that location specifically. Remote resort, limited medical facilities, easy to make deaths look accidental. We researched drowning deaths extensively, how long it takes, what it looks like, how to make it seem like an accident. Sarah paused the recording. Are you okay? Keep going. The plan was this. 6 weeks after the wedding, they'd be on honeymoon. Derek would suggest a romantic sunset hike to a waterfall. Remote location, no other tourist. Jessica would be excited because she loves hiking. Derek would bring a water bottle with sedatives mixed in, strong enough to make her drowsy and disoriented, but not enough to show up obviously in an autopsy. During the hike, Derek would give her the drugged water. Within 30-45 minutes, she'd start feeling tired, dizzy. Derek would suggest they sit by the water to rest. And then, when she was impaired enough that she couldn't fight effectively, he'd push her into the water, hold her under until she drowned, then call for help, claiming she slipped and fell. I felt sick. The sedatives would metabolize quickly. By the time they did an autopsy, most of it would be gone. They'd see drowning as cause of death, possibly, see traces of sedatives and assume she'd taken them herself for anxiety or sleep. Combined with the remote location and Derek's story about her slipping, it would look like a tragic accident. My job was to help. With the technical details, what sedatives to use, how to make drowning look accidental, how to act during the rescue attempt so it looked real. I'm a former paramedic. I know how deaths are investigated. I knew how to make this work. Derek was going to pay me $500,000 from the insurance money. I needed it. I'm in debt. I've got a drug problem. I'm desperate. So I agreed. I helped him plan a murder. Sarah stopped the recording. There's more, but that's the core of it. They had a detailed, specific plan to murder Jessica and make it look like an accidental drowning. That's premeditated murder, I said. Not conspiracy. They had a complete plan ready to execute. Correct. Which is why both Derek and Marcus are facing life sentences. This isn't just talking about maybe killing someone. This is a detailed murder plot with specific timelines, methods, and roles. Did Marcus mention me? Did Derek discuss killing me after I overheard? Sarah's expression went grim. Yes, later in the confession. You want to hear that part? I need to. She fast-forwarded the recording and pressed play again. After Derek had that meeting at his apartment on October 22nd, he called me panicking. He said the wedding planner might have overheard his phone call. He wasn't sure, but she'd left suddenly claiming an emergency, and her body language had been off. He thought she suspected something. I told Derek we should call off the whole thing. Too risky if someone knew, but Derek said no. He was too deep in debt. The loan sharks were threatening to kill him. He needed that insurance money or he was dead anyway, so he decided we needed a backup plan. The backup plan was this. If the wedding planner went to police or told Jessica, Derek would kill the wedding planner first. Make it look like a robbery or random attack. Then accelerate the plan with Jessica, marry her immediately, kill her within days instead of waiting 6 weeks and flee the country with the insurance money. I stopped breathing. Derek asked me if I could make a death look like a random mugging. I said yes, blunt force trauma, take her wallet and phone. Do it in a parking lot or isolated area. Derek started following the wedding planner after that meeting. He knew where she lived, where her office was, what routes she drove. He was planning to kill her if she became a problem. But then Jessica disappeared, and everything fell apart before Derek could act. If Jessica had stayed around another week, if the wedding planner had kept planning the wedding without going to police, Derek would have killed them both. First the wedding planner to eliminate the witness, then Jessica for the money. I'm only alive because Jessica disappeared when she did. If she'd waited, I'd be dead. The recording. This ended. I sat in silence, trying to process what I'd just heard. Derek Matthews had been following me, planning my murder, waiting for the right moment to kill me in a parking lot and make it look like a random crime. I'd been days, maybe hours away from being murdered. Maya, Sarah said gently, are you okay? No, but I will be. Did you arrest him in time before he could act? Yes. We arrested Derek on October 30th, 8 days after you overheard the call. Based on Marcus's confession, Derek was planning to act within the next week. You were very lucky. Lucky that I went to you immediately. Lucky that you moved fast. Lucky that Jessica agreed to disappear. If any of those things had gone differently, don't think about that. Focus on what actually happened. You saved Jessica's life, and we saved yours. Derek Matthews is in custody, and he's never getting out. The trial started in mid-January, 3 months after Derek's arrest. The prosecution's case was strong. Evidence presented. My testimony about overhearing Derek's phone call, Marcus Kelly's detailed confession about the murder plan, surveillance footage of Derek and Marcus discussing the Thailand plan, internet search history, showing Derek researching drowning deaths and sedatives, the 5 fraudulent life insurance policies, financial records showing Derek's $450,000 debt, text messages between Derek and Marcus about timelines and methods, Derek's threat against me captured during interrogation. I should have killed the wedding planner. The defense's strategy was predictable. Blame Marcus, Derek's attorney, a high-priced criminal defense lawyer named Robert Chen, no relation to Detective Chen or Jessica, argued that Derek was the real victim. My client is a man who made the mistake of confiding in the wrong person, Robert Chen argued in opening statements. Yes, Derek Matthews has gambling debts. Yes, he took out life insurance on his fiancée, as many couples do when planning marriage, but the murder plot? That was entirely Marcus Kelly's idea. Marcus, a former paramedic with a history of drug abuse and previous suspicious patient deaths, manipulated Derek. Marcus convinced Derek that killing Jessica was the only way to pay off the debts. Derek, desperate and afraid, went along with discussions but never intended to actually harm Jessica. He was planning to back out. And the prosecution's star witness, the wedding planner, misunderstood a phone conversation taken completely out of context. It was a desperate defense, and it crumbled under cross-examination. My testimony, I took the stand on day 3 of the trial. The prosecutor, ADA Jennifer Martinez, walked me through the October 22nd phone call. Mrs. Sinclair, tell the jury exactly what you heard Derek Matthews say. I repeated Derek's words as accurately as I could remember. 3 more weeks. After the wedding, insurance policies don't pay out unless she's been my wife for at least 30 days. 30 days minimum, I'm thinking 6 weeks actually. The Thailand honeymoon is perfect. Remote location, lots of opportunities for accidents, hiking accident, drowning, even food poisoning. I've been researching. I'm $450,000 in debt, loan sharks threatening to break my legs. Total is $3.5 million across all the policies. I'm still walking away with over $2 million. And Ms. Sinclair, was there any ambiguity in what Mr. Matthews was saying? Any possibility he was discussing something other than murdering his fiancée? No. He was clearly, explicitly discussing Jessica's murder, the timeline, the method, the financial motivation. There was no ambiguity. Derek's attorney tried to discredit me on cross-examination. Mrs. Sinclair, you were in a different room from where Mr. Matthews was speaking, correct? Yes, but the study door was ajar. I could hear him clearly, but you didn't see him. You didn't see who he was talking to. You didn't see any documents he might have been referencing. You just heard words out of context. The context was clear from the words themselves. Or you heard fragments of a conversation and constructed a narrative that fit your assumptions. Isn't it possible Mr. Matthews was discussing a TV show, a book, a hypothetical scenario? No. He mentioned specific details. Jessica's name, the Thailand honeymoon they'd booked, the November wedding date, his actual debt amount. Those aren't details from a TV show. The cross-examination didn't work. The jury could see I was a credible witness with no motive to lie. Jessica's testimony? Jessica took the stand on day 5. She looked fragile but determined. The prosecutor asked her to describe her relationship with Derek. I thought I was in love, Jessica said, voice shaking. I thought Derek was my soulmate. We talked about having children, growing old together, building a life. I trusted him completely. When he asked me to sign estate planning documents or insurance policies, I signed without questioning because I thought we were partners. I never imagined he was planning to kill me. When did you learn the truth? October 25th, Detective Chen and Maya Sinclair told me Derek had taken out $4.5 million insurance policies and was planning to murder me on our honeymoon. I didn't believe them at first. It seemed impossible. But then they showed me the evidence, and I realized everything had been a lie. How did that make you feel? Destroyed, betrayed, terrified. The man I loved had been planning my death for months. Every sweet moment, every I love you, every kiss, all of it was fake. He was just waiting for the right time to kill me. She was crying now. The jury was crying. Even the judge looked moved. Derek sat at the defense table, expressionless. No emotion, no remorse. The defense tried to suggest Jessica had misunderstood Derek's intentions. Miss Chen, is it possible Mr. Matthews took out insurance policies to protect you, not to harm you? He took out policies totaling $4.5 million with himself as sole beneficiary. That's not protection. That's profiting from my death. But you signed some of those policies willingly because I trusted him, because he told me we needed them for estate planning. I didn't know I was signing my own death warrant. The defense couldn't shake her. Jessica's testimony was devastating. Marcus Kelly's testimony. Marcus testified on day 7, having agreed to cooperate in exchange for a slightly reduced sentence. He detailed the murder plan in graphic specific terms, exactly how they'd planned to drug Jessica, drown her, and make it look accidental. He described Derek as the mastermind, himself as the reluctant accomplice. Derek came to me with the plan, Marcus said. Not the other way around. He'd already picked Jessica as his target, already researched drowning deaths, already worked out the timeline. He needed me because I have medical knowledge. I know how deaths are investigated, what looks suspicious, what looks accidental, but this was Derek's plan start to finish. The defense tried to flip it, suggesting Marcus was lying to get a better deal. Mr. Kelly, you're testifying against your cousin to reduce your own sentence, correct? Yes. So you have a motive to lie. To blame Derek for everything while minimizing your role. I'm not lying. Derek masterminded this. I helped because I needed money and I'm weak. But Derek planned to murder Jessica. That's the truth. The jury believed him. Marcus's confession matched the surveillance evidence, the search history, the insurance fraud, everything corroborated his story. 48 hours until verdict, 24 hours until sentencing, 12 hours until Derek's final statement. The trial lasted 3 weeks. On February 7th, the jury deliberated for less than 4 hours before reaching a verdict. Derek Matthews was found guilty on all counts: conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, attempted murder, for the plan that was interrupted before execution, wire fraud for the insurance policies, insurance fraud, threatening a witness for his statements about killing me. Marcus Kelly, in a separate trial, was also found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, though his cooperation earned him a slightly reduced sentence recommendation. Sentencing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Before sentencing, victims were allowed to give impact statements. I went first. Your Honor, Derek Matthews planned to murder an innocent woman for money. But before he could execute that plan, he also planned to murder me because I discovered his plot. For weeks after his arrest, I couldn't sleep. I was terrified he'd somehow get out and come after me. I changed my locks, my routines, my routes to work. I developed anxiety that still hasn't fully resolved. Derek Matthews didn't just plan Jessica's death. He traumatized everyone who came into contact with his evil. Jessica went next. She read from a prepared statement, her voice shaking but strong. Derek Matthews stole 2 years of my life. He made me believe I was loved when I was actually being targeted. He watched me plan our wedding, our future, knowing he intended to kill me and take my money. He made my family love him, made my friends celebrate us, made me trust him completely. And all of it was performance. All of it was lies. She looked directly at Derek. I will never trust easily again. I will never fall in love without suspicion. I will never plan a future without remembering that the last person I planned a future with was planning my murder. You didn't just try to kill my body. You killed my ability to love freely. That's what you took from me. And I hope you spend the rest of your life in prison thinking about what you did." Finally, Jessica's mother spoke. She described watching her daughter fall in love, celebrating the engagement, planning to welcome Derek into their family. "We loved him like a son. We trusted him with our daughter's life, and he was planning to take the life for money. There is no punishment severe enough for what he tried to do." Derek was given the opportunity to speak. His attorney advised him to show remorse, to apologize, to beg for mercy. Instead, Derek said, "I got unlucky, that's all. If the wedding planner hadn't overheard, if Jessica hadn't disappeared when she did, if Marcus had kept his mouth shut, the plan would have worked. I'd be rich and none of you would know. I'm only here because I got unlucky." No remorse, no apology, just complaint that his murder plot had been discovered. The judge looked at Derek with visible disgust. "Mr. Matthews, in my 30 years on the bench, I have never encountered someone so completely devoid of conscience. You planned to murder a woman who loved you. You spent months researching how to make her death look accidental. You enlisted help, purchased sedatives, created elaborate cover stories. And when caught, you show no remorse, only frustration that your plan failed." The judge paused. The sentencing guidelines allow for significant discretion in cases like this. "I'm exercising that discretion to ensure you never harm anyone again." Sentencing. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Life in prison without possibility of parole. Attempted murder, 30 years concurrent. Wire fraud, 20 years concurrent. Insurance fraud, 10 years concurrent. Witness threatening, 5 years concurrent. Total, life in prison without possibility of parole. "Mr. Matthews, you will die in prison," the judge said. "You will never be free. You will never have the opportunity to harm another person, and that is exactly what you deserve." Derek was led out of the courtroom in shackles. He didn't look back at Jessica, didn't acknowledge anyone, just walked out with the same cold, emotionless expression he'd worn throughout the trial. Marcus Kelly, sentenced separately, received 25 years with possibility of parole after 15 for his cooperation. After Derek's sentencing, police continued investigating. Derek had claimed he was $450,000 in debt to loan sharks connected to organized crime. Were those loan sharks real? And if so, had they known about Derek's murder plan? Detective Chen called me in March with an update. The loan sharks were real. Derek owed money to a criminal organization that we've been investigating for years. They were threatening him, broke his car windows, sent enforcers to his office, made it clear he needed to pay or face consequences. Did they know about the murder plot? No. We investigated thoroughly. The loan sharks didn't know Derek's plan to kill Jessica. They just knew he owed money and expected payment. When Derek told them he was working on getting funds, they assumed he meant legitimate sources, selling assets, borrowing from family. They had no idea he was planning murder for insurance money. So they're not being charged? Oh, they're being charged, but for loan sharking, extortion, and racketeering, not for Jessica's attempted murder. That was all Derek and Marcus. What would have happened if Derek had succeeded? If he'd killed Jessica and collected the insurance money? He would have paid off his debts. The loan sharks would have been satisfied. And Derek would have gotten away with murder. The Thai authorities would have ruled Jessica's death accidental drowning. The insurance companies would have paid out after standard investigation. Derek would be a wealthy widower, with no one suspecting he'd murdered his wife. Except me, I would have known. Yes. Which is why Derek planned to kill you first. You were the only person who could connect him to the plot. If he'd eliminated you before anyone believed your story, he could have proceeded with Jessica's murder with no witnesses. The thought still made me cold. I'd been days away from being murdered to protect Derek's conspiracy. Derek Matthews is currently serving life without parole at Pontiac Correctional Center in Illinois. He's been in prison for 3 years and will remain there until he dies. According to prison records Sarah was able to access, Derek has been a difficult inmate, multiple disciplinary infractions, fights with other prisoners, refusal to participate in rehabilitation programs. He still doesn't think he did anything wrong, Sarah told me when I asked about him. He sees himself as a victim of bad luck. not as an attempted murderer. That level of narcissism and lack of conscience is rare even among criminals. Marcus Kelly is also in prison, serving his 25-year sentence. Unlike Derek, Marcus has shown some capacity for remorse. He's completed addiction treatment programs and written apology letters to Jessica, which she's chosen not to read. Marcus is a weak person who made terrible choices, Sarah said, but he's not a sociopath like Derek. Marcus can potentially be rehabilitated, Derek can't. Jessica Chen left Chicago 6 months after Derek's sentencing. She moved to Portland, Oregon, far from the city where she'd almost married her murderer. She's been in intensive therapy for 3 years, working through PTSD and trust issues. I met with Jessica via video call last month to check in. "How are you doing?" I asked. "Better," Jessica said. She looked healthier, color in her face, light in her eyes that had been absent during the trial. "The first year was hell. I couldn't date, couldn't trust anyone, had nightmares about Derek drowning me. But therapy helped. Time helped. Distance helped." "Are you dating?" "I'm trying. It's hard. I meet someone nice and immediately start looking for red flags, looking for signs they're secretly planning to kill me. My therapist says that's a normal trauma response, but it's exhausting. I've had 3 relationships end because I couldn't trust them." "That's understandable given what you survived." "I know, but I'm working on it. I want to fall in love again someday. I want to believe someone can love me without ulterior motives. I'm just not there yet." "What about your career? Your life in Portland?" Jessica smiled, a genuine smile. "That's going really well. I got a promotion. I've made friends who know nothing about Derek. They just know me as Jessica, not the woman who almost married a murderer. I'm hiking again, running again, doing the things I love. Derek took 2 years of my life, but he didn't take my future. I'm rebuilding." "I'm so proud of you." "I'm proud of me too. And Maya, thank you. You saved my life, literally. If you hadn't overheard Derek's phone call, if you hadn't gone to police, if you hadn't had the courage to tell me even though it destroyed my world, I'd be dead. You gave me a future. I'll never forget that." After we hung up, I cried. Relief tears, gratitude tears, joy that Jessica survived and was healing. After Derek's case, after nearly being murdered myself, I fundamentally changed how I approach wedding planning. New safety protocols. Never meet clients alone in their homes. All meetings happen in my office, at venues, or in public locations. I don't visit client residences unless another vendor is present. Trust my instincts without hesitation. If something feels wrong, I investigate immediately. I don't dismiss red flags out of politeness anymore. Screen for financial abuse. I now ask about prenups, separate accounts, and financial independence. If one partner is controlling all money or pushing insurance policies, that raises flags. Background checks for high-value weddings. For budgets over $100K, I run basic background checks with client permission to verify identities and check for criminal records or financial fraud. Work with law enforcement. I've developed relationships with Detective Chen and other investigators. If I suspect criminal activity, I report immediately rather than trying to handle it myself. Industry advocacy. Since Derek's case, I've become an advocate for vendor safety in the wedding industry. I've given talks at wedding industry conferences about recognizing red flags for financial abuse, domestic violence, and fraud. I've published articles about when to report suspicious behavior to police. I've trained other vendors on safety protocols. Because Derek's case taught me something critical. Wedding vendors see things family and friends don't. We're outsiders with access to intimate relationship dynamics. We're positioned to notice abuse, fraud, or danger that insiders miss. If I hadn't overheard Derek's phone call, Jessica would be dead. That's not hyperbole. She would have married him, gone to Thailand, and drowned under sedatives. My job, our job as wedding vendors, isn't just creating beautiful celebrations. It's protecting vulnerable people when we see danger. 7 major cases now. 7 times my job went from planning celebrations to investigating crimes. Lauren, saved from being poisoned by her groom David, exposed as a bigamist with multiple wives, the Chen family, immigration fraud and sister impersonation, Sarah and Alex, LGBTQ couple forced to perform heterosexuality. Amanda faked terminal cancer to manipulate her fiancé, Tyler. Saved from marrying a woman faking terminal illness, Jessica. Saved from being murdered for insurance money by her fiancé. Each case taught me something different. But Derek's case taught me the hardest lesson. The most dangerous people are the ones who seem perfect. Derek wasn't obviously evil. He was charming, successful, presenting, attentive to Jessica. He said all the right things. He played the devoted fiancé role perfectly. But underneath the performance was a sociopath planning murder for profit. Red flags were subtle. Impatience with wedding timeline, wanted to get married and start murder plans sooner. Detailed tracking of Jessica's routines, researching for murder method, interest in her insurance coverage, inventorying assets. Questions about honeymoon medical facilities, planning murder location. I almost missed them. If I hadn't accidentally overheard that phone call, I would have planned Derek and Jessica's wedding without ever suspecting he was planning to kill her. That's what haunts me. How close I came to facilitating a murder by planning the wedding that would enable it. November 15th would have been Derek and Jessica's wedding day. Instead, Derek was 3 weeks into his life sentence, and Jessica was in trauma therapy in Portland. I thought about that date often. If things had gone differently, if I hadn't needed papers from my car and returned to the apartment when Derek was on that phone call, if I dismissed the conversation as something innocent rather than investigating, if Detective Chen hadn't believed me and moved quickly to protect Jessica, if Jessica hadn't agreed to go into hiding immediately, if any of those things had been different, Derek's plan would have proceeded. Jessica would have married him on November 15th. They would have gone to Thailand. 6 weeks later, Jessica would have drowned in a waterfall while sedated, and Derek would have collected $4.5 million in insurance money. And I would have been murdered in a parking lot sometime in early November. A random mugging victim eliminated to protect Derek's conspiracy. 2 deaths that didn't happen because I overheard 5 minutes of a phone call. That's the weight I carry. That's what keeps me vigilant. Derek's case sparked significant changes in the life insurance industry. Margaret Torres, the investigator I worked with, reached out to me last year with an update. Because of Derek Matthews, every major insurance company in the country has updated their fraud detection protocols. We now cross-reference applications across companies. If someone tries to take out multiple high-value policies on the same person within a short time frame, the system flags it automatically. That would have caught Derek immediately. 5 policies totaling $4.5 million within 6 months, red flags everywhere. We would have investigated before issuing any of them. So this can't happen again. It's much harder now. We also require in-person interviews for policies over $1 million, independent attorney review if one spouse is taking out policies on the other, and verification that both parties understand what they're signing. Derek exploited holes in the system. Those holes are mostly closed now. Mostly, but not completely. Because con artists evolve, they find new loopholes, new methods, new vulnerabilities. Which is why vigilance matters. Why paying attention to red flags matters. Why trusting instincts matters. 3 years later, I still think about one question. How many other Derek Matthews are out there? How many seemingly perfect fiancés are actually planning their future spouse's murder? How many loving partners are secretly taking out insurance policies and researching accidental death? How many weddings am I planning right now where one person is a victim in waiting? I don't have answers. I can't know. What I can do is stay vigilant, trust my instincts, investigate when something feels wrong, report when I have evidence, and I can share this story, Derek and Jessica's story, as a warning. Because the signs were there, subtle, easy to miss, but there, financial secrecy, Derek controlling all the insurance policies, isolation tactics, Derek encouraging Jessica to be independent from her family so she'd be more vulnerable, timeline pressure, rushing the wedding, wanting to accelerate the date, excessive life insurance, multiple policies totaling far more than necessary for normal protection, interest in partners' routines, Derek tracking Jessica's schedule, habits, vulnerabilities. Lack of genuine emotional connection. Derek never looked at Jessica with real love, only assessment. If you see these signs, investigate. If you're experiencing these behaviors, be cautious. If your instincts say something's wrong, listen. Because Jessica's wedding was 3 weeks away when I discovered Derek's plan. 3 weeks from marrying her murderer, 3 weeks from signing her own death certificate. Sometimes the most beautiful wedding is the one that never happens. I still plan weddings. I still create beautiful celebrations of love and commitment. But I'm different now. More cautious, more suspicious, less willing to accept perfection at face value. I've planned 12 weddings since Derek's case. All of them have been genuine, no fraud, no murder plots, no dark secrets. Just people in love getting married. But I've also turned down 4 consultations in the past 3 years because something felt wrong. Red flags I couldn't articulate clearly but couldn't ignore. A groom who insisted on controlling all vendor communications. A bride who seemed terrified of her fiancé despite claiming to love him. A couple where one partner had taken out excessive life insurance on the other, a fiancé who asked oddly specific questions about accidental death and estate law. Maybe those red flags meant nothing. Maybe those couples were perfectly fine and I was being paranoid. Or maybe I saved someone's life by refusing to participate. I'll never know. And I'm okay with that. Because after Derek Matthews, I understand something fundamental. My job isn't just planning weddings. It's bearing witness. It's paying attention. It's protecting vulnerable people when I see danger. Even when that danger looks like a charming fiancé planning the perfect honeymoon, especially then. If you've stayed with me through this entire story, through the investigation, the murder plot discovery, the trial, the aftermath, thank you. This case was different from my others because I wasn't just saving a client from fraud or abuse. I was saving her from literal murder, and I was saving myself from being murdered to cover up the conspiracy. That proximity to death changes you, makes you hyper-aware of how fragile life is, how quickly happily ever after can become tragically cut short. If you're planning a wedding and something feels wrong, listen to that feeling. If your fiancé is pressuring you to sign documents without reading them, controlling your money, isolating you from family, taking out excessive insurance, those are red flags. Get a second opinion. Consult an attorney. Protect yourself. If you're a wedding vendor and you notice concerning behavior, report it. You're not overreacting. You're potentially saving a life. Better to be wrong and embarrassed than silent and complicit. If you're Jessica, if you're someone who discovered your partner was planning to harm you, know that recovery is possible. Jessica is alive, she's healing, she's building a future. Trauma doesn't define you forever. And if you're Derek, if you're someone planning to harm your partner for money, know that you will get caught. The wedding planner might overhear. The insurance company might investigate. The accomplice might confess. You will not get away with it. And you will spend the rest of your life in prison. 7 cases, 7 times planning weddings became investigating crimes. I'm a wedding planner. I create celebrations of love and commitment. But sometimes the most important thing I do is recognize when the wedding is a trap, when the celebration is a setup, when till death do us part is actually a murder plot. Derek Matthews planned to kill Jessica Chen for $4.5 million in insurance money. He came within weeks of succeeding, and the only reason he failed was because I overheard 5 minutes of a phone conversation and refused to stay silent. Sometimes the wedding gets canceled 3 weeks before the ceremony. Sometimes the groom goes to prison for life. Sometimes the bride survives and rebuilds her life from ashes. And sometimes the wedding planner becomes the witness who stops a murder.
Thanks so much for joining us on this journey. If you loved this tale, please subscribe to Tin Tea Tales for more stories like this one. Hit that like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, and check out our latest uploads on the channel. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you in the next one.